What's going on, my good people? This your boy Life Up the Entertainer, here to bring you the official SWAC tier list of 2024. Okay, this was an interesting season for all these bands. I got a chance to pretty much look at all of their footage that they posted. Okay, and I'm gonna give it to you raw and uncut. Some of this stuff is my opinion because of the win-loss ratio, but a lot of this is stuff that I collected in my scale. So a lot of this stuff is data-based, okay? So, before y'all getting y'all feelings, oh, you just hating and all this stuff, it is nothing but love here. I show love to all these bands being presented, okay? And y'all can look through my timeline, okay? I ain't hating on none of these band programs. The only thing, my mission is to uplift these band programs and possibly bring more light in what they can work on and what they can have. I have different subjects for different things, so this is not going to be one tier list. This is going to be different types of tier list, okay? So, y'all get a chance to see it raw and uncut. So if y'all want to see what that looks like, look at the timestamps below for different subjects of the tier list, okay? Every band excels at different things, and I wanted to highlight that for people who are making a hard decision of where they want to be in college. This can possibly help them. For people who are in those bands currently and they want that real rawness to understand where they lie at in the tier list, this is where you're going to get it from, okay? Yeah, I clicked on this video for a reason, and I'm going to give it to you raw and uncut. Okay, if you're new to the channel, please consider liking and subscribing. Means so much to me. Alright, really means so much to me. Shout out to Frat and Sarah that's out there too. Alright, so with that being said, this is my official SWAC tier list. Let's get into it. Okay, this is based off of their record. Okay, and this just who had the best season. Pretty much who had the best season. So this is my first subject, okay? So, with that being said, who had the best season? We're just going to go down the list as I see it. Okay, when we look at Alabama A&M, all right, Alabama A&M had 4 wins, 2 losses, all right? They was able to, have a good, season. So, for them to do the things that they did this season, I'm going to give them an A tier, I had no true complaints from them. They really handled business. They had a lot of battles that they was able to. They was able to punch a giant, in my opinion. So I'm going to put that at A tier. Alright. When we look at Bethune-Cookman. Alright. Bethune-Cookman record is 6 wins and 1 loss. Okay. This is the stuff that I'm grading for my opinion only. For me personally, I just feel like they didn't have enough battles. Yes, they did tend to battle the bands, and yes, they did do a couple other things, but it was not, I feel like they never really had a true one-on-one with a band. They had 2 one-on-ones. One was with Clark and one was with FAMU, but I mean, you haven't even came across no real giants, man. Like, they didn't even see Alabama, Grambling, any of that. And it's like, sometimes it's a financial issue because you got to pay to travel. And so I feel like, that's kind of a hit and miss thing right there for Bethune-Cookman, but they had a clean record overall. So it's very impressive for what they did. I just wish that they would have done more in that category, Alrighty, so when we look at FAMU, alright, FAMU had 4 wins, 3 losses. Okay? 4 wins, 3 losses. Where would I net them? Alright? As far as their season is concerned. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm going to put them in B tier. They had their moments. I feel like, they had their things they need to work on as a band, and I think that's kind of hurt them in some of the categories as well. I just feel like it was just missing that initial oomph for them this season, So that's kind of where they lie at, It was some stuff. I mean, they had battles, but when they went against them, they, for the old heads, somebody commented below and told me that they played some of those marches and classical songs for those old heads or sponsors are there. Me personally, if it's 5th quarter, we want to hear what your book sound like. We respect you playing that stuff, but play that in 0 quarter if that's an option. You know, that's just me though. This me personally though, and I think that's also hurt them. But they kick some ass on that field though. They do. So, Grambling State, 7 wins, 3 losses. A lot of those wins I gave them was on the off season. So, where do I put them? Where do I put Grambling State? I put Grambling at B tier. Okay. It's a lot of things they're gonna work on. There's some stuff I'm gonna even put stuff that people with bands need to improve on as a whole. But you know, that's, you know, we're gonna get there to close to the end of the video. But I'm gonna put them at B tier. They had a solid season. You know, with some wins that they got. So they got a lot of ties this season. I think that's what carried them. But it was definitely a book issue for them. Alrighty, Mississippi Valley. They did not have the strongest record out of the bunch, okay? But they definitely have my respect in some other subjects, okay? But as far as me grading their season, they had 1 win, 5 losses, okay? So I'm going to put them at C tier. Just, you know, I just think that they just need just some help in a couple of departments, and we're going to talk about that. We're definitely going to talk about that and what they need to should work on and what they can improve on overall. Okay. Moving on, Jackson State. Oh my goodness, Jackson State. Oh man, Jackson State had a season, man. Their season was like a damn movie, fam. For real, man. Jackson State, I have them at 9 wins, 3 losses, man. So I'm gonna put them at S tier. They really was handling some business, fam. They was handling some business this season. You know, they came across Southern twice. You know, I mean, a couple bands was able to punch him in the face a couple times. You know, but every dog has their day. But Jackson, that's a fair push. That's a fair push for Jackson. Not bad for Jackson. Alrighty. When we look at peer review, okay, I was able to catch two battles between them. They went against Texas Southern and they went against Southern. Okay, they was able to punch one of the Giants in the face. I'm gonna leave it like that. Let y'all watch that video. But I feel like they needed more battles, and that's just the lack of bands not traveling to them or them not able to travel to them. You know, vice versa. So it's kind of like one of those damn if I do, damn if I don't type of situations. But, you know, they had a fair season. Peer review record clocked in at 4 wins, 2 losses. So not bad. I mean, they did do some battle the bands here and there. So they did their thing when they could, you know. So, you know, they had a decent season. All right. When we go to Alabama State, oh, my goodness. A lot of people be like, oh, you just an Alabama State fan. Look, there's no fans, no favoritism. For me, personally, they had a great season. To be honest with you, I feel like they're tired, okay? But Alabama State's record is 7 wins, 2 losses for me, all right? I'm going to put them behind Jackson. They kind of do a dive. I wish I could put them at the same level I would, to be honest with you. That's exactly where I would put them at, me personally. They... Two heavyweights, and you know, I just feel like if one didn't travel so much, you know, vice versa. But hey, definitely a good season for Alabama State. Definitely a good season. All right, when we look at the Human Jukebox, Southern University, okay, when we got Southern, we got them at 8 wins and 3 losses. Okay, a lot of their wins came on their field shows when they did not get a chance to see other bands. Well, other bands didn't come to them, but you know, I still clocked them as a pretty good season. They had definitely a real good season, so I'm gonna put them at S tier. They did very good this year. You know, no true complaints. You know, we're gonna get into more things, some more accolades that they did, but I'm gonna put them at S tier for this season. When we look at Texas Southern, oh man, Texas Southern really did some good stuff, okay? did some good stuff. They had 5 wins, 3 losses. I really enjoyed Texas Southern a lot. They really did a lot of things this season. I think that they really carried in their department, especially when it came down to that book. Their field shows, they had their wild moments, especially for me. They definitely had their wild moments for me. So I'm going to put them at A tier. If I was to pick either or, I'm going to put Alabama A&M behind Texas Southern. Texas Southern was slightly better than Alabama A&M. Me personally, I will pick them over Alabama A&M in the A tier department. All right. When we look at Alcorn, okay, Alcorn, they clocked in at 4 wins, 3 losses. 4 wins, 3 losses. I like Alcorn. They had some good runs. I think they had some bad runs. I just think there's some stuff. So they kind of even in the spectrum as far as things is concerned. I think they had a great season overall, but I'm going to put them at B tier. When we look at UAPB, all right, UAPB had 5 wins, 3 losses. Okay, 5 wins, 3 losses. They had a great season. They really surprised me this season. UAPB did. We're gonna talk about them more in the different subjects, but I really think they did a phenomenal job this season. But I'm gonna put them at A tier for this season, right behind Alabama A&M. So this is the official season list for 2024, who I thought was the best. Jackson State is top tier. Second place is Alabama State. And third, we got to give it to the Human Jukebox Southern. Okay? Alrighty. Moving on. Alright. So, now we look at who had the most power. Okay. Now look. Power within itself had his own thing. Sometimes I felt like power had its own type of entity. You know, like if it was a person, it's scary. You know? It's like sometimes these bands really do some feats with the power. It's crazy. In the SWAC, we are known for having power. Okay? And I'm going to rank as far as bands who had the most power this season and where I will lie them at. Okay? And so some of these might not shock you, but some of them might shock you. Depends on how y'all feel about it, okay? But it's definitely some things to talk about, accolades and stuff. So this is like, you know, the extra categories. You know what I'm saying? So power, when we give the power list, let's look at Alabama State. Alabama State, they had power. They utilized power, but they never really utilized their power because of their numbers. They played clean for the majority, but I'm going to give them an A. Put them in an A tier. All right. Now, when we look at Jackson State was doing some things for me. I was like, good God. Oh, man. When we look at Jackson State, man, I'm just like, man, what in the world was going on there, fam? You know, so I was just like, okay, Jackson. Okay, you know. I'm going to put Jackson in S tier, okay? When we look at Bethune-Cookman, Bethune-Cookman really has not been about a power. This is one of the bands that came from the Meek and came to the SWAC. So there's definitely a different preference as far as what is presented in a band battle for them. But I prefer clean over power any day. But if I was to clutter down the line for them, I'm going to put them at C tier. They've never been about power, so I'm going to put them at C tier. When we look at Peer Review have not been as powerful as they can be, and I'm kind of glad because sometimes bands who have power don't always sound clean, and Peer Review always had a mixture of power and cleanness, so I'm going to put them at B tier. Alright, when we go to Southern University, Human Jukebox, that's the power king for me, fam. Like, it's just something about when Southern gets it going. It's something about when Southern get it going, man. It's kind of like, oh, dear God, you know? So it was just like, wow. That's Southern for me. That is Southern for me. Okay. Oh man, that is wild. It's wild. It's definitely wild. I remember they went against Texas Southern, and it was one song that they played against them, and I was like, dog, I don't know if they can get any louder than what they was doing. Like how they was projecting, it was almost scary. I thought they was finna rip the universe how loud they was cranking. I'm gonna be real with you. You talking about power? Southern got it, fam. Southern definitely got it. Okay, but when we look at Texas Southern, when we look at their power category, Texas Southern really had them octaves. They really have their octaves, man. They know how to really do their thing when it comes down to it, man. They up there, so I'm gonna put them behind Jackson State. Those two are just two monsters, man. Texas Southern really have their moments. They definitely have their moments. When we look at Alcorn, Alcorn definitely has some power struggles here and there, but they definitely have some power things they had going on. Now, was it always clean? Vice versa, but I'm going to give them B tier on that. Grambling State. How I feel about Grambling? Grambling has some moments when it came down to power. Grambling tends to fluctuate with power, depends on the arrangement. I think that's one thing that kind of hurt Grambling this season. If the arrangement department helped complement their power, I think they'd be straight. I think because of the stuff that was presented with Grambling this year in their book, I think they kind of hurt them a lot this season. So I'm going to put them at B tier. I'm going to put them behind Alcorn. When we look at Mississippi Valley, they have made a turnaround when it came down to power, man. I remember when I was in a band, things was different. That was a small band in the SWAC, but now it's a complete turnaround. Like one of the biggest bands in the SWAC, and with it being a big band, they have some serious power behind them. Some serious power behind them, and they have gone toe and toe with two of the giants right there, man. So I'm gonna put them like right above Texas Southern. That's just because of their power. They French horns, oh my gosh. Oh my goodness, like it is crazy. It is crazy. That's all I gotta say. It's crazy, fam. When we look at FAMU, when it comes down to the power department, same thing like Bethune-Cookman. They never really been about power. They have their moments. They try to do a little step up this past season, but because of how their situation is set up, I think if they just simplify some of their arrangements and not make it too complicated, then we can appreciate their power a little bit more. But I'm going to give them a C tier. All right. When we look at UAPB, UAPB definitely had their moments when it comes down to power, but it's kind of like the same thing with Grambling. Grambling and UAPB kind of has some unique things going on, but I'm going to put them at B tier. Put them right under Alcorn. Okay. When we look at Alabama A&M, when we look at Alabama A&M, I'm going to be honest with you, man. They had some power, man. They definitely do. It's definitely, I think a lot of people kind of skip over Alabama A&M. They don't give them enough recognition, but believe it or not, they very, very strong when it comes down to power. So I'm going to put them right under Alabama A&M. Not Alabama A&M, Alabama State. All right, so that's how I feel about who was the strongest in power. Southern's top tier when it comes down to that. Second is Jackson State. Third is Mississippi Valley. All right, so let's move on to the next subject. All righty. The next subject is who had the best arrangements, who had the best songs, who had the best arrangements. Okay. So we into some categories when we kind of fluctuate with it, how unique a band is when it comes down to the pen game, man. I'm all for a band who has a strong pen game. They pen game can change the tides and everything. Song selection, everything. Pen game's crucial. Alright? So, even though, we're going to start with Bethune-Cookman. Even though Bethune-Cookman did not have that many battles, but their pen game was top tier. I'm sure that if they would go against some of these bands, they would give their bands a run for their money. So I'm going to put them at S tier for this, okay? When we look at FAMU, kind of like the same thing as Bethune-Cookman. FAMU can do some things with that pen and their book. It's crazy, okay? They definitely pull out some things as far as their book is concerned. You know, I feel as if their book is very big. No, I don't feel like their book is the biggest, you know. But I feel as if their pen game is crucial, you know. And if y'all all about, oh man, our arrangements are very technical, you know, here you go. You know, that's what we're talking about. You know, when we look at peer review, where do we stack them? They kind of stepped up their pen game this year, 2024. I wish they would have had more battles, but from what I can hear, when they went against Southern, they definitely pulled out a lot of stops. They pulled out a lot of stops. You know, I just feel as if, you know, that was more things to look at, etc. And I just, you know, that's just me though. You know, I think that was some uniqueness that was going on with them. But I'm gonna give them A tier. Okay, in that. Grambling State. We look at songs and arrangements. Definitely need some help in that department. Definitely need some help in that department. I'm not knocking what they bring to the table. I am Graham fan, but I'm very critical on that. I just feel as if some stuff that they pulled out could have been better. Some stuff was simplified, and I just feel as if, you know, you can't give me a legitimate excuse on why some of those arrangements the way they are. You know, especially if you want to talk about power or stuff. I feel like some stuff need to be more complicated, etc. It's a lot of things. It's a whole lot of haul in there. And I can get very political with that band, but we're not going to take it there. But we're going to put them at C tier. When we get to songs and arrangements for UAPB, I'm going to put them, be honest with you, I'm going to put them at B tier. They kind of showcase their strengths in that department. I feel like it could be a little bit better in some departments as far as certain songs is concerned, but they held it down. I feel like UAPB really excels when it comes down to their ballads. Me personally, they always been a ballad band to me, but I definitely think there's something that they, you know, definitely can look into. All right, when we look at Alcorn. Alcorn definitely has some hit and misses in their arrangements, but I really enjoyed them. They pulled out some songs I was not expecting here and there, but I'm going to put them at B tier. I'm going to put them under UAPB. When we look at Alabama State, as far as songs and arrangements is concerned, Alabama State arrangement game is crucial. Their pen game is crucial, man, and for them to pick certain songs, I'm always a fan of a throwback. If you really want to pick some songs, you can always pick current songs, but you got to have a pen, right? But if you're going to give me a throwback, your pen got to be there if you're going to give me a throwback. And Alabama State delivered on that, okay? They definitely did. I'm going to put Alabama State under FAMU, okay? When we come to Alabama A&M, they pen game is very solid. I have no complaints with Alabama A&M. Very, very solid. I'm going to put them right behind peer review. I just wish they can show me just a little bit more, and I probably would have put them higher than peer review. Okay. Alrighty, Texas Southern. Oh man, Texas Southern. Oh, their pen is crucial. Their pen is crucial, but their book. I love Texas Southern because they really play with their book. You never know what they're gonna pull out on somebody. Their book, you know, gets me on the edge of my seat you know, and when they pull something out on people, they pull something out on people, and that's what I love about them. Their songs and their book is crucial, so I'm going to put them above Bethune-Cookman. When we look at Mississippi Valley, they had some interesting moments in their book. I can say that they definitely done a lot of things as far as, you know, what they can do and showcase their arrangement. They definitely struggled in some other departments, but their book was there. Their pen game was there. You know, now what I say is that pen like divine. I wouldn't say it's divine, but it's definitely good. Definitely good. So I'm gonna put them above on FAMU. I'm gonna put them above FAMU. That's me personally. When we look at Jackson State, they pen, whoo, their book, whoo, oh my God. Oh my goodness, Jackson State just brings me so much joy. That's all I'm saying. They bring me so much joy. Like they just like, okay, let's go to the early 2000s. Let's go to the 90s. Let's just throw this and see what this sticks. You know, Jackson had a great season and they play with their book. I think a lot of these bands can be top tier if they really play with their book a lot. That's how I feel. Like a lot of bands can play with their book a lot. I think they'd be straight. I'm gonna put them over Texas Southern. I just like, you know what I'm saying? I just feel like that's one of those things I like about Jackson. They did not worry about where they was picking from. They was like, okay, we're gonna get 5 songs from this era, 5 songs from this era. I feel like every band should incorporate that because you got generations looking at y'all. Okay? Now, granted, I grew up in an era when people just started recording these bands and posting them on YouTube, etc. Right? But now everybody can just simply type y'all up and y'all got a good quality video. It doesn't even take y'all that long to see where y'all work ethic is at. You know, and that's why I feel like these bands can really improve on. Okay? Now, when we look at Southern definitely have their moments. They can pull out some things when they want to. But do they pull it out often? No. But one thing I do like about Southern, they have a strong pen game. Their pen game, they really be up there with their pen. A lot of people be like, oh, well, it's power sensitive and stuff like that. But they make it for their band. That's what I like about Southern, man. So I'm going to put them under Jackson. But this is where we got as far as songs and arrangements is concerned. I put Jackson State first. Second place is Southern. Third place is going to go to Texas Southern. Okay? Now we get to the subject who had the best field shows. Alright? Who built field shows were awesome. These are different. As you can tell, we get into different subjects and every band excel at different ones. Okay? When we look at field shows, man, I always feel as if there should be wild moments. There should be a lot of things that should be in the field show. People who are not band heads like me, if I was just a normal person looking at a band, I'm not looking at filth. I'm looking at the field show. So this is what matters to the majority. We're not talking about band heads. We're talking about the majority. People who don't know nothing about band. They just care about the field show. Alright? So, you know, we're going to cut it down the road, but we're going to be honest with this. Alright? Now, who gave the best field shows of 2024? Alright. Let's start with Grambling. Grambling, I'm going to put them at A tier. Grambling can definitely put on a show when they want to. You know, they would definitely had a good season on that field. I think it could be better on some ways. You know, I feel like some stuff can be pulled out and do a little bit better in certain ways. You know, with them doing 360s on the field, etc. I just think that there's a lot of things that should be improved for Grambling for 2024 on that field. But very strong for them. Very strong for them. When we look at UAPB, UAPB, I'm gonna give them a B tier, not B tier, under Gremlin. I just think they had their moments. They definitely did something good at Honda, very good. But sometimes they had some hit or miss. They kind of improved when it came down to the field show department. It wasn't always there, if that makes sense. But they definitely had some entertaining field shows. So I'm gonna put them on the Gremlin. Breakdown department for both of these bands right here are A1. A1. We go to Alcorn. Alcorn has some hit and misses, man. To be honest with you, I just think that there's some stuff that needs to be improved. Some 85 issues need to be worked on. Some symmetry issues need to be worked on. I wish they would have gave me more breakdowns as far as that stuff is concerned. So I'm gonna put Alcorn. I'm gonna put Alcorn at C tier. All right. When we look at peer review, I was very surprised how entertaining their field shows can be. They know how to utilize a lot of people on their field. Okay, they definitely showcase energy where they need to, and I really enjoyed watching this band. I wish they would have been able to travel more and do more things, but I'm going to put them under UAPB. All right, so they did pretty good when it comes down to the field shows, etc. So I'm going to put them under UAPB. When we look at Alabama A&M and their field shows, they definitely had some hidden gems in there. I definitely like Alabama A&M. They very clean. That's one thing I like about Alabama A&M. They're very clean on that field. They do not play around. And that's one thing I like about Alabama A&M. They don't really have too many symmetry issues. I never really have any true complaints with them. I think a problem with them is their media team. The media team kind of handicaps them and handicapped Gremlin as well. I feel like those two have something in common, but I'm going to put them under peer review when it comes down to the field show department. When we look at field shows for Jackson State definitely have their moments. I really enjoy looking at them in their fields shows. Okay, they definitely put that work in. They definitely showcase a lot of things. They really show you how to drill. Okay, they do. One thing I don't like about them is that they don't take the time to break it down. All right, and I think that's one thing Jackson kind of stands for. Like they do really well. I just feel as if they break it down a little bit more. I get that, they do JSU Rock the House, but I just feel like they should give me 2 features before they do JSU Rock the House. That's me personally. I feel like that's something that they should add and something they can definitely improve on when it comes down to these field shows. I think that's just an added element. That's like you get to the climax and then you there, but you don't finish it. It's like beating somebody to their last to like 2%, and then that's it. Like, we spared you. I feel like Jackson is underrated, but I also feel like there should be some improvement. Okay, so where I stack them, I'm going to stack them over. I'm going to put them in A tier. I'm going to put them under Alabama A&M. When we look at FAMU. FAMU know how to put on a clinic on that field. They can put on a clinic on that field. They know how to utilize the majority of people on that field. And that's what makes it entertaining for them. FAMU really know how to utilize their people. I don't have no complaints with FAMU. FAMU really know how to do it. Okay? They have a clean sound. The arrangement department, when it comes into them utilizing their show, is very clean. I mean, I wish they had dancers too, but hey, it is what it is. But I'm gonna put them at S tier. When we look at field shows, we're looking at drills. Southern, they kind of had their hit and misses. They do. But they definitely improved on the field from when I last seen them a long time ago. They definitely put more energy marching 8 to 5. They definitely have more movements, especially when it comes down to the breakdown department. Okay, they definitely have their moments, and I feel as if there's a lot of things, a lot of hidden gems over them that they know how to utilize, and their media team is A1. Their media team, Southern, yes. All right, yes. All right, that's all I gotta say. So if I was to put field shows, I'm gonna put them right here over PV, peer review. They definitely had their moments. Definitely had their moments. But, hey, when we look at Texas Southern, oh, man, Texas Southern definitely have some things I think that needs to be looked at. They have their moments, but 8 to 5 was a consistent issue for that band. When we look at the breakdown department, they definitely have some hidden gems, and they definitely have some entertaining field shows. Don't get me wrong. They definitely have some entertaining field shows. I just feel as if they was missing that consistency throughout the season. Alright? So I'm going to put them at B tier. Mississippi Valley. Alright? To me, personally, they need help in that department. A lot of battles that I graded when it came down to me giving them losses was because of their field show. Their field shows is what put them in a bad place overall. Okay? They did. Alright? So, I think that they need help in that department completely. Like, they need a whole complete U-Haul on that. Like, whatever they need to do, they need help. Breakdown department, everything. It was times when they'll play Nick and they'll stop the field show. There's no segues to even go into Nick at the end. They just stop and then they have the drum majors count them in. That to me, that's a no. I think that's not me bashing Mississippi Valley. I just think that they need some help on that. They definitely do. They definitely need some help on that. Alright. So I'm going to put them at D tier. I'm going to put this here. Blank is the D tier slot. So we're going to keep them here. Okay. When we look at Bethune-Cookman had, to me, the best season when it came down to field shows. So I'm going to put them at S tier above FAMU. They definitely knew how to utilize their field. Consistency was everything, and they definitely had a more entertaining season on the field than FAMU. That's me personally. I prefer Bethune-Cookman. That's me. I definitely enjoyed watching them. Enjoyed them thoroughly. Okay. When we look at Alabama State, I'm gonna put them in S tier as well. Reason why I put them at S tier is because they really know how to march 8 to 5. I never really had to call them out on the 8 to 5 at all. They had one serious hiccup this past season, and that's because their drum majors was just off in the beginning, and that's what actually called them for me to give them a loss. Okay, so they would have had a better record if they didn't have that hiccup. But for me personally, they did very good. Alabama State did. Okay. So, just to put that on there, this is what it is here. This is the official list for the field shows of 2024 for HBCU bands. All right. So, let's move on. Now, when you look at who was the cleanest bands, okay? Who was the cleanest bands? I honestly feel as if, these things can be worked out over time, okay? Articulation is everything. Attacking together is everything. Cleanness to me means as if I don't have to worry about no clutter in a band. I don't have to worry about nobody really sticking out because they know how to manage their band effectively. Okay? So when we talk about clean and balance, there we go. Alright? So now Mississippi Valley. When we give Mississippi Valley, they had some moments when we had people missing. Alright. Now, as far as consistency is concerned, I'm going to give them a B tier on that. Definitely has some moments as far as them being clean. I definitely think there could be something improved in that department. Okay. When we look at Alcorn, Alcorn definitely had their moments when they're clean, but I think that they also struggle with their articulation a lot. Um, Especially when we talk about people overshooting, you know. Thing is, when it comes down to power, you got to know how to control it. And so sometimes bands sound bad when they try to overdo it. And Alcorn was one of those bands this season when they was trying to outdo themselves, and it did not sound good. So I'm gonna put them at C tier. All right. When we look at Texas Southern, Texas Southern definitely have their moments as far as them sounding clean on a consistent level. They definitely have some hit and misses there, here and there, and I feel as if they definitely can do a little bit better in some of the departments. But you know what I like about Texas Southern, they're very consistent. Okay, definitely have power, but I think that sometimes the band kind of overshoots it sometimes. So I'm gonna put them over Mississippi Valley when it comes down to cleanness. Grambling State, they have their moments. They definitely have their moments, but I feel as if, you know, there's some work. There's some serious work that needs to be handled for Grambling State as far as the cleanest department. I know it can be better. I heard them be better. But this season, they needed help. That's what hurt them in a lot of these battles that they went against. Was the lack of cleanness and miscommunications and stuff. It was one when they went against Texas Southern, they got off tempo. It was something with the band director. It was a lot of other stuff that's going on with Grambling. Again, I'm not going to get too deep with them, but you know, I just think that was something that needs to be worked on. So I'm going to put them at C tier. When we look at Bethune-Cookman, Bethune-Cookman sounds very clean. I never really had to complain about clarity with Bethune-Cookman because Bethune-Cookman can really bring it to you. It feel like you're hearing the song in full-fledged form, you know. So I'm gonna put them at S tier. Bethune-Cookman really done a lot as far as clarity is concerned, and I know they would give a lot of these bands down here a run for their money when it comes down to cleanness. You know, we ain't talking about book. We talking about cleanness. All right, so I just think that's one thing to highlight with Bethune-Cookman. That's a slept-on band in the SWAC, and a lot of people don't acknowledge that. Peer Review definitely has some moments, but I feel like, you know, they kind of fell short depending on their season. But I'm going to put them above Mississippi Valley. When we come down to cleanness, you know, UAPB, they had their moments, but I can tell you that they improved tremendously. They did. But you know, as far as cleanness is concerned and their book is concerned with their cleanness, I'm going to put them above peer review. Jackson State. Jackson State definitely has their moments. They can stay clean overall, but I think that there was some stuff that needed to be fixed. You know, they definitely sounded good close to the end of the season, of course. But, of course, it's kind of the same thing with Texas Southern when I was telling you that some people try to overdo it, you know. And I think that's one thing to highlight as well is that some bands trying to overdo it and it does not sound good. So I'm going to put them over Texas Southern, okay? Southern. When it comes down to Southern for 2024, as far as cleanness is concerned, they definitely have their moments, but it's kind of the same thing with those two that I mentioned above with Jackson State and Texas Southern. They kind of fall victim of them trying to overdo it, you know, and I think that's one thing that hurts them a lot is that they need to fix that. You know, there was some articulation issues sometimes because of people they so focused on yanking. I mean, I seen somebody who passed out and came back in the midst of the video just to yank again. All right, Oh man. So when it comes down to cleanness, I'm gonna put them under Texas Southern. That's just me personally. So don't get in y'all feelings about that. All right. I just think because it's a little bit Texas Southern's a smaller band than Southern, they able to control a little bit better than Southern can. All right. When we look at Alabama A&M, that actually was very clean for the majority, but I just think that they kind of struggled just a tad bit in some of the departments. So I'm gonna put them right. It's either above Jackson or below Jackson. I'm gonna say they're above Jackson when it comes down to the cleanest department because they can definitely hold it down. They can definitely hold it down. When we talking about Alabama State, I never really had to critique them fully on their work. They definitely had some articulations here and there, issues here and there, but I think that they are very solid, very very solid. So I'm gonna put them at A tier. When we talk about FAMU, FAMU is very clean. Never really had to worry about them not really fixing anything. They really take their time with that band, and it really shows. So I'm gonna put them above Bethune-Cookman as far as cleanness is concerned in that department. So here it is, ladies and gentlemen. As far as the cleanest band of 2024, FAMU is number 1, Bethune-Cookman is 2nd, and 3rd place is Alabama State. Alrighty, moving on. Who do I feel as if who was the most improved band? Okay, so not all these bands are going to be on this list. It's only a selected few. Okay, top tier band I feel as if was the most improved this season was UAPB. All right, UAPB really excelled. They started out very shaky, but they surprised me in this season. UAPB for me was the most improved. Okay, I would say the second band. I would say that's the most improved. Okay, when we look at it all together. Okay, the most improved as far as band content is concerned. I'm gonna give it to FAMU. They stepped it up in the book department close to the end of the season. I felt like in the beginning they was missing just an initial edge, and I just feel as if, it was some stuff that needs to be worked on in their book, and they kind of sprucing it up just a tad bit, but I think that should be fixed later. Okay, but those two really step it up for this season. All right, moving on. Who had the best battles for the season? All right. I'm going to give you my top 4 band battles that y'all can look at for 2024, and y'all be the judge of that. Okay, there's some common denominators for this, but you kind of get what I'm getting at. Okay, the top battles for me. All right, number 1, I'm going to give it to Jackson and Mississippi Valley. All right, that battle was something serious. Ooh, that battle was something serious. That was an entertaining battle to me personally. Those two was going for blood for each other. So y'all can argue with me if y'all want in the comments, but to me that was one of the best battles of 2024. Jackson and Mississippi Valley. Valley surprised me in that battle a lot. A lot. They have surprised me. Alright? So now when we look at next battle, of course Jackson still's up there because we had those moments with them, but I'm going to give it to Jackson and Alabama A&M. Those two went at it, and that was an entertaining battle, and it was neck and neck again. It was almost a tie. But Alabama A&M, in my book, I feel like they were just stronger. That was a preference battle. It's the same thing with Jackson versus Mississippi Valley. It was a preference battle in that 5th. Those two really went neck and neck in that battle, and I appreciate that. They really went head to head, and it was so entertaining. It had me on the edge of my seat. All right. Now, when we go to 3rd place, We'll go to B tier. I want to say Jackson versus Southern. I'm going to say the Boombox 2. Not the Boombox 1, but the Boombox 2. Boombox 2 was a little bit cleaner for both of these bands. It wasn't in the beginning of the season, so I appreciated the Boombox 2 more over the Boombox 1. So that's me personally. I'm going to put that at B tier on my list, okay? And it just seems like Jackson's just the common denominator, ain't he? But after that, I'm going to say Jackson versus Grambling. Very entertaining battle. Even though Grambling was able to punch Jackson, I just felt like it was entertaining overall. It was just an entertaining battle. You saw both bands' strengths and weaknesses. Either that was if that was either in zero quarter, the field, or fifth. It was entertaining. Straight entertainment from start to finish. Okay? But I'm going to put that as C tier. Alright. Now, this is a special subject, and I know some people are going to get in their feelings, okay? But, you know, this is some mentions that some bands that really need help, and I'm going to highlight these bands now as we speak. Each band needs help, okay? So, I'm going to do some adjustment on this stuff so people will know what to look at, you know, alrighty, so when we look at this, alright, again, ladies and gentlemen, this is the part when we look at some real serious critiquing, alright, and this is just my strong opinion, and this is what I feel as if some bands fall short and what they can improve, okay? Again, do not get in your feelings about what I'm giving and what needs to be taken care of, okay? To me personally, alright, and I think that's what helped Alabama State out a lot this season. They had strong field shows, and you know, and they also had their book was put together. You know, I just think they just need to work on a couple of exercises here and there, but I think that they're strong in their department as far as overall. Alright, when we look at Alcorn, Alcorn is a little different, you know. I just think that they kind of fell short in some departments. They definitely need help in both. I just think that some battles could have carried if they would have been able to particularly be careful with their book and their field shows. There was some symmetry issues in some of their stuff, and I feel like they need help in that department. When we look at Mississippi Valley, one thing I would say about Mississippi Valley, they definitely have their hit and misses. Their book is okay. Don't really have to really worry about them in their book. But I feel as if, they definitely need some work in their field show department. A whole lot. They definitely need some help in that department. I just think that's something that needs to be looked at a lot. When I say UAPB, they definitely did a lot of improvement, and there's no complaints too much in their department. They definitely took the time out to acknowledge their book, and they definitely took some time out to acknowledge their field show. What that's look like next season, I don't know. But, one thing I would say, I would want them to try to pull out more, and what I want them to fix out just a little bit more. I just want them to improve more in their book. If they can improve more in their book, UAPB will be a force to be reckoned with in the SWAC. That's just me personally. I just think that there's some stuff that definitely needs to be worked on in that situation. Just, if their book was improved better, I think they'd be strong. Very, very solid. When we look at peer review, in the field show department, I had no true complaints. When it came down to, they need more help in their book, I wish they had more battles. But from what I'm judging and what they definitely did a lot of improvement in that category. So I'm going to put them, they don't need too much help. Peer review did pretty good. They did very solid for them. I just wish they had more battles, and they would have been able to rank high in a lot of other subjects that I presented to y'all today. When it comes down to Grambling, again, I'm Gram fam, so I'm going to give it to you raw and uncut. I've been saving a little bit of this for this time. Grambling needs to really look at their book selection. Field show, not so much. Their field show is pretty good, but their book selection is everything. Me personally, I feel like they should do what Jackson did. They should pick from different eras and work with it. I appreciate grammar, but not every song on the radio needs to be played. I feel like you should play it. It should be a standard, but surprises, surprises. I think Gremlin's missing that initial edge, and I ain't comparing them to me being in the band and the current band. I'm not doing that. I just feel as if they need some help in that department. It's the same thing with the book and all that, and the arrangements and all that. They definitely need some improvement altogether. The book and the arrangements, all that needs to be improved. So I'm going to put them below UAPB. When it comes down to don't need too much help, Bethune-Cookman did phenomenal. I have no true complaints from them. I wish they had more battles. I really want to see what their book is at. But they was able to showcase their arrangements, so I don't think they would struggle against any other of these bands that presented today. So I'm going to put them over Alabama State. Simply because, I haven't been able to really judge their book. But their field shows are very strong. I'm going to take their time with that. Texas Southern. No true complaints about their book. And this does not really rank these bands. This is just me giving critique. Okay, I just want to thoroughly put that out there. When it comes down to Texas Southern, I'm going to just say that they just need to really work on their field shows. I don't have to worry about their book at all. Their book is very solid. I just feel like if they can be able to work on their field shows more, they'd be able to do a little bit better than, a lot of these bands. And I think that's what will let me get them more wins. I just feel like if they worked on that department, I think they'd be solid. Okay? I think that's pretty much it for Texas Southern. When it comes down to FAMU, a lot of losses came to FAMU because of their book decision. It's a book issue. Song selection is everything for them, and that's what hurt them in these band battles. Their song selection, I brought it up earlier, but if you have alumni or sponsors there should be a time or window for you to play those songs for people to be praised, to praise the FAMU, and there's a thing called zero quarter. That's the time to play it. But if you're going to pull something out like that in fifth, the moral fifth is for people to be oohed and awed, not to hear your technicality. Yes, but they want to hear songs that they're familiar with. They want to hear songs they want to hear on the radio. They want to hear things that took them back to that time when they had their first hit of Gin. You feel me? That's what I'm talking about. That's how you do feel. Alright? And FAMU kind of missed that mark on that this year. And hopefully that, a lot of this stuff can go to these band directors and they can understand what they need to fix. Again, this is not me criticizing these bands or giving them praise or nothing like that. I just feel like this is just something that they just need to work on. Jackson State did phenomenal with their book. I just feel as if when it comes down to the breakdown department, it definitely needs just a little bit to be fixed on. I just feel like, it had its moments, sometimes 8 to 5 would be there, sometimes it won't. Sometimes, breakdowns went together, sometimes it won't. And I just feel like they just need that extra oomph in the field show department. But book, self-kiss, okay? When it comes down to the book for Alabama A&M, they definitely had a great book. Definitely did. They had their hit and misses. They probably choked a couple of times, but they didn't have too many battles either. Alright? But they definitely held their own. It came down to entertainment factor. So I just feel as if they just need just a little bit extra, and I think they'd be straight. I'm going to put them, they just need to just slightly improve in their book. Just slightly improve on their book. I'm going to put them over UAPB, and I think they'd be straight overall. I just think that they just need to just improve just a little bit more in their book, and I think they'd be good. I never really had to complain about their field shows. Never really did. I just think that's one thing, to highlight. They definitely had they hit and misses, but So we come down to Southern. Okay, where do we place Southern? Alright. Southern definitely has a strong book. I really enjoyed their book. Field shows, they did pretty good. They did very good. I'm going to put them for their season as far as strength-wise, as critiques, and they could take this too. They don't need too much help. I'm going to put them over Alabama State, actually, because they was very all-around. They took the time out to acknowledge their weaknesses, and they improved like they're supposed to. I never really had to really truly critique them. I mean, yes, they had some 8 to 5 issues here and there, but they was able to fix that. Look at that Bayou Classic field show. You're going to see exactly what I'm talking about. They did their thing at Bayou Classic. They really handled business. Okay? So, this is what I honestly feel that these bands, did. They did pretty good. They did very solid for 2024. Every band, as you could tell, had their own strengths and weaknesses, and I definitely highlighted it today. But I really appreciate y'all for tuning in and showing y'all boys some love. Means so much to me. What I would say again, ladies and gentlemen, please do not get in your feelings about the things that I talked about today. Okay? I'm a band analyst, and at the end of the day, I'm not here trying to bash either band program. I want the best for every band program out there, as a person who really cares about bands and seeing them entertain. We all need some fair criticism. Okay? We really do. And it's not me trying to belittle either band organization or nothing like that, but we need that criticism so we can improve. So, like I said, I'm going to give it to you raw and uncut, but don't bash your boy in the comments because it's coming from a genuine place. Now, if you disagreed with me in some of these subjects, that's fine. You can even post your tier list below, however you stack it. But, at the end of the day, this is my opinion, and I wanted to make sure that honesty was presented today. Alright? I really took the time out to watch all their content, all these bands' content. We talking about from zero to the field shows, to field shows that other bands that even show up to their fifth quarters. Okay? And I really took the time out to look at all that content. Alright? And so this is all the data that I was able to collect for these bands. And I'm glad that y'all was able to stick it through me and watch these videos until the SWAC tier list. Now, outside of the SWAC tier list, I'm grading the Meek and the Seek. Anything that's HBCU content, I'm grading. And I'm going to give my fair, honest opinion about it. And be looking out for a Meek tier list if I have time. And I'm kind of June is kind of going by quick. We in the middle of June now, so I'm just like, wow, So hopefully I can get down with both of these other divisions soon. But I know I definitely have to get the SWAC out the way. But I really appreciate y'all for tuning in and showing y'all boys some love, man. I'm finna get up out of here, man, and like I tell y'all always, deuces.